Hello everybody. Let me just... Yeah, I know, I'm buggering about a bit here, but hey ho. Right, let me just check something. Samsung movie. Right, okay. Right, sorry about that, guys. So, there has been a little bit of a hullabaloo in the tech industry recently. Well, no, the tech YouTubing sort of thing. That I am quite a fan of the tech YouTubers. Linus Tech Tips, Blunty, Jace2Cents, people like that. And then somebody made a video. The Verge made a video about building a $2,000 gaming PC. Now the video's 11 minutes. Let's watch it together. I have watched like 40 seconds of it. I will be stopping this video and explaining where this guy is screwing up. Let's just get on with it, shall we? Okay, full screen.
So a few years ago, TC, or Managing Editor, built a gaming desktop, but it's kind of out of date, and it's definitely not going to hold up for Battlefield 5. So let's build a new
That's debatable. That really is.
Gaming desktop for around $1,000, but I want to go all out, so I spent around $2,000. PC like this is going to be able to play most games at ultra settings. So what do you need to build a desktop? Well, of course, first you need a table. Preferably not metal. If it's going to be metal, have an anti-static working surface layered on top of it, a thermal paste applicator, an Allen wrench, some tweezers to tighten up the wires.
Those aren't tweezers. Those are cable ties. This is not a good sign. And it gets worse. And I do mean it gets worse.
A Swiss Army knife, which hopefully has a Phillips head screwdriver in it. And last but not least, an anti-static bracelet, which is to protect you and the parts. These are the parts you're going to need, but more...
Wait. Was that his anti-static bracelet? Looks like no goddamn anti-static bracelet I've ever seen, but go on.
More importantly, before we get there, we need to understand what these parts are doing and how they interact with one another. To better understand the parts that make up a desktop, let's try to understand them individually. The processor is like the computer's brain, a base of calculations that control everything the computer does. The motherboard is like the foundation, serving as a main structure for all other parts to be added to. It also allows the other parts to communicate with one another, which also makes it kind of like a nervous system. Graphics cards are responsible for rendering and processing visuals into what you see on screen.
Yeah.
This power supply is of course channeling electricity, in that it adjusts and provides the right amount of energy to keep it running.
Fine.
Last but not least, RAM, or random access memory, and your hard drive are good examples of short-term and long-term memory, respectively. If you want to better understand what kind of computer to build, then first figure out what you want to use it for. A gamer might care more about a graphics card than, say, a video editor who might want extra RAM to assist with editing large files. If you're building a budget build for video streaming, say under $1,000, you want to focus on parts, like a Core i5 or Core i3 processor, that require less energy.
What?
They'll be less powerful, but then you'll be able to scale back the cost of several other parts. And if you need help choosing the right parts for your build, there's sites like PCPartPicker.com that help show presets for which parts fit together, which sort of part conflicts you might have, and where to find deals on new parts.
Yeah, okay.
There are a lot of boxes and a lot of PC parts, so it's best you unbox them, isolate the parts
No.
you need, place items into the case, and make sure that they all fit, and then start working.
No.
And then we're really going to start building by adding the motherboard in.
Right. Do not unbox every goddamn thing you own. Do it methodically. First things first. Power supply, motherboard, CPU, and cooling for CPU. Those four things should be first. that case looks like garbage. But that's just my opinion. But go on, let's see what he says.
Some notes about installing motherboards: they're really delicate, you should be really careful with them. And screw in with confidence, but also don't screw in too hard, otherwise you could crack the board. I chose Asus's Z370 motherboard for two main reasons. One, it has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and also it has support for NVMe SSDs, meaning you can get really fast SSDs that are really easy to install. Attention to the brace that goes at the back of the computer. You always have to make sure that you really hammer it in, because there's no screw.
Wow, hammer it in. Those are words you shouldn't be saying when you're building a computer, you moron. And yeah, you're a moron.
It really just has to go outside of the case and clasp onto the frame. And this is very important, because otherwise you can't align the motherboard correctly with the holes. We're just going to start installing all 8 screws. So next we're going to install the RAM on the motherboard. I chose Corsair's 16GB Vengeance LED RAM for two main reasons.
Okay. Why is he installing the RAM? I'm telling you. Motherboard, power supply, CPU, cooling. So let's think about this like a human body. The human body has a heart, brain, things like that. So the heart, which pumps all the information, all the blood around it, is the power supply. So that should be the third thing that happens. So first things first, you put in your motherboard, which is basically the exoskeleton, sort of the body, if you see what I mean. It's sort of like, think of the chassis of the cage, the case, as the sort of skin and stuff. Think of the... It's not really the nervous system, though, is it? It's more the heart. Yes, I'm right. It pumping information around. I'm getting confused, but for God's sakes, this guy just annoys me. Why are you putting the RAM in first? Don't put the RAM in.
One, it has LEDs, and we do like lights in our gaming desktops. Secondly, it's pretty fast RAM. It's 2666 megahertz, I believe, so it's pretty fast, and this motherboard supports that speed, which is most important. Open the slots first, and just aligning the stick with the middle of the strip, not with the end, and just lining that up with the logo. So once you hear that solid clasp and you don't see the gold connectors on the side anymore, that's when you know the RAM is in. Step 3, we're going to install the hard drive, or in this case, the NVMe SSD. I chose this format of solid-state drive.
Why?
So you can put it into the motherboard without having to worry about extra wire.
Okay. 1. What if you just power the whole thing up and you've got a slightly dicky motherboard? And you just fry your RAM and your NVMe, which is... RAM's not cheap, neither is an NVMe. Yeah, this guy is not smart. Not smart at all. Sorry, where's the CPU? Go on. Oh, sorry, it should be in the center, but hey ho.
Or putting it in a separate part of the case and just getting really messy. This is from Kingston, and it's 480 gigabytes, so it's not a lot, but you can always upgrade this and swap it out, and it's only held down by one screw and the latch, so it's really simple and really straightforward. Speed for gaming is important when it comes to a hard drive. You want files to write quickly, and you want games to load quickly, so that's why it's best if you use an SSD. Okay, so step 4, we're going to install the graphics card. I chose PNY's GTX 1080, which is overclocked, and so it's a pretty easy installation. You're just going to find the gold connectors, and you're going to line this bracket with the back end bracket of
Why?
the PC case. Now, which lane you choose depends entirely on what other parts you're going to put in the system. I'm just going to pick the top one because the SSD is at the bottom, and I don't want to cover it. I just think it looks nice. Click down. Take your remaining brackets and just put them in the spots that you haven't used.
What?
You don't have to screw these in. They get bolted down by the back end bracket. And your GPU is installed. Power supply time. I chose Corsair's 850 watt power supply because I need enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to upgrade it again. So all you have to do is take the brick and make sure that you align it with these little insulating pads so the power supply doesn't short circuit and come into contact with the rest of the system. So just take it in, slide it in nice and easy until you have a snug fit, and then shift it to the back and make sure it's right up against the frame. Now you just take the required screws and you tighten and screw in. Okay. So next step, we're going to install the CPU core. In this case, it's going to go on the top end of the case, and we're just going to have the hose hang out for a little while until we install the processor, which is going to come a little later. Always be sure to try to place it in the system first before you install it, because you can see it takes up a lot of space. But in this case, no pun intended, it fits in perfectly, and we're going to start screwing it in. And so there's nothing special about this screwing in process. They're just really long screws because they go through the entire frame of the cooler.
Why are you using a Swiss Army knife?
Every power supply is going to come with a big bag of Velcro cables. It's kind of daunting at first. So
hang on. You go, let's put in the power supply. And then you go, oh, let's put in the cooling. And then you go back to the power supply. Schizophrenic much?
To find the ones that are going to fit. In this case, you need to match those cables with the correct descriptions on the power supply. Next step is we're connecting the power supply to the motherboard with a 24-pin cable. We're just attaching that cable from the motherboard, threading it through the back, and attaching the 24-pin header to the power supply so that we can have one of the connections come.
Okay. Why? Oh, why has he not already found the cables? Why is he doing this arse backwards? Okay, I can see why he wants to put the... Well, no. Why put the NVMe in now? Why put the RAM in now? The RAM is the easiest thing to put in. The NVMe is one of the easiest things to put in. I've never put one in myself, but pretty much it's the same as RAM. You just stick it in and stick a screwdriver in and screw it down. But then you go, let's put the power supply in. Well, the power supply should already be in. You put the motherboard in, you put the power supply in. Don't hook it up yet. Well, no, first things first. You've got all your components. You should have put your motherboard on a static tray, hooked it up to a power supply, put the CPU in, and put the he's using a different type of cooler than I'd recommend. He's using a water cooler. I suppose you could. Well, yeah, you can do that. You can do that because the fans will still move. So hook up the cooler. You can de-hook it when you try and put it in. Then make sure it all works. Make sure the power supply works. Make sure the CPU works. Make sure you get movement. Make sure you get... I'm not talking for a screen, but I'm talking for well, if you've got a screen, you can actually put it on the actual motherboard and see like a BIOS or something. But don't ever, and I do mean ever, do this without testing the main components, which are the motherboard, the power supply, the CPU. You don't need to put RAM in. It'll say there's no RAM. It doesn't matter. You can still go there. You need to put the cooling in to not fry your power CPU. But even then, I've seen people just turn it on. Oh, it works. Turn it off. But I wouldn't recommend it. Right. Okay, go on. See what it fucks up now.
Complete. The next few additions will be for the GPU. For any specific step is we're connecting the power supply to the motherboard with the ticket in. And so there's nothing special about this.
Right, let's go back to where he puts the power supply in. Okay.
You don't have to screw these in. They get bolted down by the back end bracket.
Yeah, well,
and your GPU's installed.
That's in your case. So
I chose Corsair's 850 watt power supply because I need enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to upgrade it again. So all you have to do is take the brick and make sure that you align it with these little
you
pads,
just smacked something there. That's not smart, is it?
Contact with the rest of the system. So just take it in, slide it in nice and easy until you have a snug fit. And
Wait.
Shift it to the back and make sure it's right. Now you just take the
hang on.
screws and fit so the power supply doesn't room for rate
hang on.
bracket.
Wait, hang on.
50 watt power supply because I need enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to upgrade it again. So all you have to do is take the brick.
So that has a fan. Can anyone else spot the mistake he's just made? Because I can. The mistake is, unless I'm mistaken,
and make sure that you align it with these little insulating pads so that the power supply doesn't short circuit and come into contact with the rest of the system.
It's not likely to short circuit, mate. But
nice
yep,
until you have a snug fit,
he's putting it in the wrong way round.
Right up against the frame. Now you just take the required screws and you tighten and screw in. So next step, we're going to install the CPU board. In this case, it's going to go on the top end of the case, and we're just going to have the hose hang out for a little while until we install the processor, which is going to come a little later. Always be sure to try to place it in the system first before you install it, because you can see it takes up a lot of space. But in this case, no pun intended, it fits in perfectly, and we're going to start screwing it in. And so there's nothing special about this screwing in process. They're just really long screws because they go through the entire frame of the cooler.
I hate him using that bloody... Oh, that's cringy.
Every power supply is going to come with a big bag of Velcro cables. It's kind of...
Not every power supply, mate. Some
in this case,
come with just a line of cables.
Those cables with the correct descriptions on the power supply. Next step is we're connecting the power supply to the motherboard with a 24-pin cable. We're just matching that cable from the motherboard, threading it through the back, and attaching the 24-pin header to the power supply so that we can have one of the connections complete. The next few additions will be for the GPU, for any specific ports that the case has, for any lighting that the case has, the CPU cooler, anything else really. We're installing the CPU, the heart of the computer.
Wait. I hope nobody ever uses this to build their PC, because God, you get confused. I'm confused. Okay, I don't build my own PCs. I usually buy them, but I know how to upgrade them. I know how to usually take care of them. There was only that one time where I forgot to actually sort of clean out the case for like 2 years, and the damn thing died. But hey ho. And I've even replaced a power supply on a computer. My computer that you're actually watching, that I'm actually watching this off of. And it's like, oh my God. This is retarded on a level that... Oh, God. Come on. How are you going to screw this up? Because I know you are.
Computer or the brain, depending on how you look at it. So to do this, we're just going to remove the plastic covering that they put on the motherboard. We're just going to take this little plastic part out. Just toss that out of here.
No.
And now we have an exposed CPU.
No. No. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Did I say no? Yeah. No. Okay. That plastic part has two purposes. One, it protects the connections between the CPU and the motherboard. You should be putting the damn thing in. It should be in your hand. The CPU should be in your hand. And you should then take that plastic part and put it aside. Put the CPU in correctly. And then make sure it works. And put the CPU things down and connect the CPU. Do not toss away the plastic part and then go and find the CPU. You could be foolish and drop something, or spit, because people do spit, and it land on the CPU part of the motherboard. That's not good. God, I reckon this guy, if he ever tried to build a car, would just like, we've got the stereo system in. We haven't got any of the chairs, the motor, the wheels, the doors aren't on, but the stereo's working. And we got the chassis. That's about it. See you next episode. Bye. God, I'm sorry. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He thinks he does. Okay, I'm not an expert. But I know what's wrong. And that is a level of wrong that just hurts me as a person. Okay, and also the camera work in this is, it's professional, but it's professional garbage. I'll explain that in a minute.
Holder, or rather slot, on the motherboard. And we're going to use the CPU applicator. This is a special little part that not everyone may get, but this motherboard that we got from ASUS definitely does have. It's called a CPU installation tool. It makes it really useful if you want to install a Core i7 hexa-core CPU. Yeah, we've got one, and it's an 8th generation chip, and it's ready to go, and it supports overclocking. So what having this little installer does for you is it's basically a brace that you can apply right to the CPU and light it up with the triangles that you'll see on the bottom left corner. And this will make it easier for us to apply it to the motherboard and then apply thermal paste and then apply a CPU cooler on top. And we're just going to carefully lean it down into the system and make sure that everything lines up, and we're going to clasp down on it and we'll be good to go.
Lean it down.
So we're about to apply thermal paste to the CPU. Every CPU cooler actually comes with a bit of thermal paste.
What are you doing?
A circle around it, but it's usually not enough. It's good, essentially PC building practice to have a little bit extra and layer it on top of the CPU.
What are you doing?
The CPU cooler to the top end.
You don't need that much thermal paste. I know this is a very general issue here, but you don't need 4 little dots around the CPU. You need 1 pea-sized dot, and you spread it to get even coverage. That is very important. Uneven coverage is very bad. Can cause problems. But go on.
Of the processor. So you're going to see that there are 4 brackets.
No, we can't see.
With brackets and holders right here. And they're going to keep the cooler raised off the processor, but it's also going to be close enough to actually physically come in contact with it, like basically keep it cool. Take
Yeah, I can see why you're having trouble.
and just screw them on. So now that our internals are done, we're going to put all the panels back on, which is the top glass, side glass, front glass, and of course the back
Why?
panel where all this fun stuff is happening. So we fully built the PC, everything's put together, and we got to the post screen. So what's next? Well, you need a USB flash drive with your Windows installation media on it, and of course a license key. So I plugged that up, installed Windows in a couple of minutes, installed a bunch of drivers, and now we have a fully functioning gaming PC ready to run some games. Right now I've got Arma 3 running at maximum settings, native resolution, which is 1080p HD. And it's running pretty smoothly. Like, I'm averaging 70.
I don't reckon you're running that off the PC that's in the background.
And it's still doing a pretty good job.
Because
I'm playing League of Legends. It's one of my favorite games. I'm actually playing against a bot, and I'm distracted, so I'm not actually doing so well. But otherwise, like, this is pretty much what you would see me do on a gaming computer. Test stuff out, and hopefully,
oh,
I am right now. I'm averaging 120 FPS, and that's only because I've actually locked the game to that frame rate, because I can get around 300 FPS playing League on maximum settings, which is a little bit absurd, and you don't really need
a
that.
potato
So
can get 300
Building a gaming
FPS
desktop
on
has
that.
been a great experience. I'm able to max out a lot of my favorite titles, and I'll be able to play a lot of upcoming titles like Battlefield 5 and Cyberpunk 2077 without worrying too much about the parts I have. When ray tracing GPUs come out, for example, I'll be able to upgrade without having to buy a completely new system, and if I have a problem down the line, I can always just swap out a part.
Hang on. I have a almost 10-year-old system. Recently, I upgraded my graphics card with a GTX 960 CPU with 6 gigs of RAM. I put in the GPU. He thinks, and I've got to look at this again.
Which is a little bit absurd, and you don't really need that, so I've locked it. Building a gaming desktop has been a great experience. I'm able to max out a lot of my favorite titles, and I'll be able to play a lot of upcoming titles like Battlefield 5 and Cyberpunk 2077 without worrying too much about the parts I have. When ray tracing GPUs come out, for example, I'll be able to upgrade without having to buy a completely new system.
I'll be able to upgrade without buying a completely new system. You can do that anyway. You can slowly upgrade all the parts. Oh, God's sakes.
And if I have a problem down the line, I can always just swap out a part and have it serviced rather than losing my whole computer.
Question. You have a problem with your... you have a problem with your motherboard. The thing that you threw away, that little piece of plastic, that is so that you can put that back on and RMA it. And I don't think you know what RMA means. Return to manufacturer. Basically, that's what it means. But oh God, this thing is cat. There should be memes about this, and I think there are. God, this thing is horrible. Right, hang on. If you guys want to know how to build a PC, there are 2 channels I recommend: Blunty and Linus Tech Tips. I will link both in the description, and you can watch both of them. I'm not a big tech expert myself. I enjoy tech. I enjoy how it works. But for God's sakes, do not go to the Verge for your tech news or anything. They are a laughingstock, and the person who did this... Frankly, I've seen YouTuber streams where people have basically killed their computers which have done better. Oh God, this is bad on a existential level.
And of course now we also have a computer to test and benchmark games here at the Verge.
Capital One, if you want to sponsor me, I'd be happy.
Thanks for watching. Let me know if you've built a computer before yourself, or how you would spend $2,000 on your own build. I'm really interested in seeing what sort of parts you guys would get.
Oh, yeah, here's the thing. Strange thing about that. Comments are disabled. And, oh my God, says like the like and dislike ratio. I wonder why. I really do wonder why. Thank you very much for watching about this Verge video that was absolute gold. You do not build a PC with a pocket knife. Oh dear God. Thank you everyone for watching. I know this is not my usual content, but I had to do this. I saw somebody else doing this and I thought, oh God, I've got to see what the hell this is about. I've got to do a live reaction. This thing is... it didn't even explain that you actually have to plug in the motherboard to the case, which is the hardest part in my personal opinion. Oh God, this guy doesn't know shit. And it's how we built a $2,000 custom gaming PC. Oh dear God. Oh, for God's sakes, this is bad. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.